Hi, I'm Carl Franklin, and I'm here to talk you through my film, Devil in a Blue Dress, to share with you some of the experiences, some of the filmmaking behind the scenes, and just, some general stories about making this movie.
I've got a West Side baby. She lives way across town.
Now, we had, when we were trying to decide upon the opening credits, what the background would be, etc., people had different ideas, and there was a suggestion that we do something that would really spell film noir with maybe articles, smoke, cigarette, whatever, fedora and all of that, and an ashtray, maybe a gun. And, everything that seemed to be suggested felt a little too conventional and felt like we'd already seen it before. And so we thought, it'd be interesting to take advantage of something that had more of a feel of the times. And in 1948, there were the WPA artists who were still at work, and Archibald Motley was one. And this piece of art that you're seeing right now is called Bronzeville at Night. It was painted in 1948. It's actually a shot of a Chicago street scene, but we thought it would work for Los Angeles too. And the song you're hearing is West Side Baby by Aaron T-Bone Walker, who was a huge star in 1948. He used to hit the splits and put the guitar behind his back, and, girls were throwing underwear on the stage to him and all of that. And he was a predecessor of some of the rock and roll stars that would follow later. In fact, what you'll see in this film and what you will hear are some of the early I guess you could say precursors to rock and roll. It was called shout and jump music, and it was born on Central Avenue, which is where a lot of this film will take place. And we thought it was cool if we came down and kind of ended this sequence on a girl in a blue dress. We don't know how many people actually picked up on that, but it was our own little inside kind of gag.
Crazy about my West Side baby. She lives way across town. And when I'm with my man,
I actually thought it was a drag that I had my name in so many places, screened played by Carl Franklin, directed by Carl Franklin, instead of just written and directed by, but they're union rules because it was an adaptation that forced me to have to do that.
now she's kinda tall and lanky.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to do, and the reason why I started early on by showing the hustle bustle of Central Avenue, and we'll come back and forth a few times to street scenes, was to capture the excitement of that time that so many people who had lived through it had experienced. And it was also another device to open up the movie. We only had about $22 million to make this film. And by cutting in and out of a few street scenes, it does a remarkable thing. I had noticed that in Les Enfants du Paradis, the Michel Carnet film, where they used a street scene over and over again to just open up the film, 3 or 4 times cutting in and out. Now, this scene was originally the first scene in the film, and it was a total scene, but we discovered that somehow it didn't give enough momentum, it didn't give enough of a signature to the film. You didn't get kicked into it well enough to really know where you were. So we only extracted a piece of it and went back actually to something very similar to the structure of the book for the opening, which was right in Joppy's bar.
My name's not Fella.
Huh?
My name's not Fella.
And we treated it as a flashback, which was kind of the way it was treated in the book.
Hey, watch the barber, damn it! What I tell you?
Joppy, how much you
Jimmy
think you made out
Witherspoon's Ain't Nobody's Business.
I don't know. Gonna stay on your.
When we first shot this scene, Tom Sizemore coming through the door, is the first time, I guess, that I actually began to think that this was in some ways a modern Western. Just coming through the door reminded me of something I'd seen in, the Western genre over and over again, actually.
Easy. Come on over here. That's the guy I want you to meet.
Now, Denzel actually does not smoke cigarettes, but he inhaled for this project, and he assured me that he wouldn't get addicted. I was a little worried about that, actually.
Mr. Albright and me go way back to before the war. Back when I was still in the fight game.
Yeah. Ever seen this guy fight?
Nah.
Huh? Shoot. Every time Joppy Shad stepped in the ring, you knew you was gonna see some real knockdown drag.
You will see us several times use alcohol in the film as kind of a Faustian symbol, taking the drink with the devil, and also just as a social grace that seemed to be so much a part of the 40s and the 30s, the cigarettes, the booze.
You colored men around here who own his own house. Shoot, he paying the mortgage every month, just like y'all folks.
Property owner, huh? These big companies don't give a damn, do they, Easy? Got out of that racket a long time ago.
Now, one of the things that we were trying to do by exposing that Easy was from Houston and that Joppy was from Houston was to reveal to people, because this was as sociological as it was dramatic, where these people came from. That area, Central Avenue, Los Angeles, populated mainly by people from Texas and Louisiana during the war and after the war. So it's like the big city having its effects on country people.
I usually look down to see if my fly is open. But all the way home,
Easy's car was a 1946 Pontiac.
I first came out to Los Angeles when I got home from the war in Europe. With $300 in my...
And we gave him a 1946 car to show his desire to become part of the kind of up-and-coming, middle class of America. The American dream was being sought after by a lot of people. We had just won the war. We were prosperous for the first time in this history of this country as a world power. And people were moving to places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City, all the port cities, because that's where the work was.
I guess maybe I just loved owning something.
And it leads into one of the main themes in the film was someone trying to hold on to their piece of the American dream as he walks up to his house.
I'm gonna knock down some of them trees in the back there. Trees alone. I ain't gonna take leave my tree. Get on.
The woodcutter was a character whom I added, who was not in the book. He's played by a fine actor named Shabaka Henley, a fine stage actor. We'll come back to this character a little later because he has a specific purpose in all of this. And we can see our man is a little buffed here, Denzel. He had a gym on the set. He'd come to the set about 5 o'clock in the morning and work out before his, about an hour before he was due into makeup. Denzel's kind of a method actor. He wanted his wardrobe a month before the film. He wore it around in the street so he could get used to the wardrobe. Carried pictures of himself as a kid and of the character Mouse, and talked about, and that was an inspiration for their childhood, or it was inspired by a picture of two children that he said it was a childhood shot of he and Mouse. This is actually an apartment house on Sycamore Street in Hollywood.
So,
Again, the liquor and the Faustian contract, the drink with the devil.
It depends on what kind of job it is.
And Tom Sizemore, who's, I think, does a wonderful job with DeWitt Albright.
mixed up in something. Only thing that matters is you mixed up to the
He picked up about 30 pounds to give himself some age, give himself some weight. We grade him a little bit to give him some age, because actually Tom at the time was only 30 years of age.
fiancée of Todd Carter. She's been gone 2 weeks. It upset the poor man so much he stopped running for mayor.
I never laid eyes on him.
That's a shame. See, Daphne has a predilection for the company of Negroes. She likes jazz.
Actually, there was a lot more to this sequence originally. We wanted to show the descent of the character. We had him walk across the courtyard, the whole confrontation with the security guard, the walking down the stairs into the belly of the machine room of the apartment, to give it a sense of that subterranean world, as if he was descending into the Faustian territory. But it took so long that we cut it.
Mr. Carter wants to make up with her. $100. I pay in advance.
And tried to make the same point with the drink and with the money. Seduction.
Joppy tells me he used to frequent an illegal club down on 89th and Central.
Yeah, John.
Somebody saw Daphne there a few nights ago.
And with his champion aircraft jacket and work shirt, he is everything but a film noir detective, which was part of the way we turned the film noir on its ear. Philip Marlowe, of course, would have been cynical and would have been much more at home in this world, but this was a story of a man becoming a detective, of becoming cynical. Again, we're here at Central Avenue at night. This was shot on Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles, I believe on 4th Avenue. And that supermarket across the street, which was John's Bar, which we will get inside of later in this shot, actually was just a big storage space. You know, you couldn't even see inside of boxes stacked up all over the place. Central Avenue at that time in 1948 was a lot like Harlem was in the Harlem Renaissance. People from all over the world.
Hey, Easy, how you doing, baby? Mister, I done told you.
Hattie Mae is played by a wonderful actress, L. Scott Caldwell.
I just paid these damn cops off and they out there rousting my customers. That's what he gets for messing with that white woman. Don't pay him no attention.
Got to remember, the police in Los Angeles were under the direction of William Parker, who was according to City of Quartz, a self-avowed white supremacist.
Yeah, you missed it. Junior, wait for the cops to leave. Take easy on upstairs, and if he's still down here, come on back and
Junior's played by David Fontenot, New York actor, stage mainly.
Yeah, you just wait, mister. You just keep waiting. Mr. McGee, there is no upstairs.
Got another one of them cigarettes? Sure. Zapata. How you smoke these damn things? You're the only Negro in America smoke Mexican cigarettes.
You know, last time I heard
Zapatas are a fictitious Mexican cigarette, primarily, cheap cigarettes. This club was fashioned after a club, and I don't remember the name of it, but there supposedly on Central Avenue was a club that was atop a drugstore, and a lot of those speakeasies were like that at the time. You'd walk into some place that was, grocery store or a drugstore or whatever, and there'd be all kinds of things happening in the back.
right. Just like you didn't help Mouse kill his stepfather. Hey, Easy. Did you help him kill his stepbrother, too?
And you had to know somebody to get inside. Russell Clark and Tony Selznick choreographed our dances. Gentleman Singing was the lead singer of the Busboys. You may remember him. Good Rockin' Tonight was a big hit by Wynonie Harris in 1948. Elvis would record that song, I believe, in 1954, and it would become a hit again. But rock and roll was already beginning to happen in Central Avenue in 1948. We shot this downtown in an artist's loft and created a bar.
Easy. How you doing tonight?
Well, it's going all right.
I think he actually rents it out to a lot of film companies. Albert Hall plays Odell. Jannard Burks as Dupree, and Lisa Carson as Nicole. Sizzling hot.
Yeah, sure, sit down.
Well, we miss you down there at the plant. And look here, Benny would have gave you your job back, right? All you had to do was go down there and say that you were sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, all right. Give me a pint of that bourbon. Any man without his paycheck is shit.
In the book, he's described as having a 10-gallon hat, the Dupree character, and we opted to go for something a little more conservative, but as outlandish, still just as outlandish. Sharon Davis, our wardrobe mistress, came up with this outfit for Dupree.
Name of Dahlia or Delia, something like that. First name start with a D.
No. Coretta got herself a job at the phone company.
Is that right? Yeah. Oh, congratulations. They ain't hiring no mans down there.
Now, Odell is a church-going man, and there is the sense of guilt that you will feel about his presence always. He's very, there's an old saying, nervous as a hoe in church. And he is, as you can see, very out of place in the bar, but I would think his presence is for medicinal purposes only.
You all right, Odell?
One last shot.
Way to the Cock Road. That whole cock.
We had such enthusiastic extras in dancing and wearing the wardrobe. Everybody seemed to be so excited about participating in this project.
Better get on home.
You'd be sorry if you go.
I'd be sorry if I stay, too. Good night, Coretta.
Daphne's asleep by now, so you can't get none of that tonight. Go around here telling everybody Dahlia. Her name is Daphne.
You know her?
Coretta's apartment or house was supposed to be in South Central Los Angeles. It was actually filmed in Boyle Heights in L.A.
Where's my key? Careful the door.
I was placed last week because he couldn't pay the rent. I shouldn't even let him sleep here tonight.
Damn, that Negro's heavy.
I know.
I need a cigarette.
That all you need?
When we interviewed Lisa for the role of Coretta, we actually stopped our search. Right after that, we realized we had found her.
All right, easy, all right. Dupree done fell asleep on me. You just gonna walk out on me like I was dog food, huh?
What? Girl, what's she talking about? Now, come on. Coretta, your man is in the next room.
I think the qualities that make her so seductive are that at the same time that she is, playing around on her boyfriend, she has so much charm, and there's such a kind of, I guess you could say, a light touch that it almost makes it okay with her.
Shoot. Well, what if he was to hear something?
He sleep. Oh, Daddy, that's it. Oh, yes. Oh, Daddy. Oh, Daddy. Oh, that's it. Oh, we hit that spot.
There was some concern as to whether or not with Easy making love to Coretta in the next room with her boyfriend sound asleep, whether he would be so unsympathetic that he would be unredeemable. But again, the humor of the scene, we felt, might take the curse off of some of that. Again, it was true to the book.
All you're doing is nosing after my friend, Daphne. Huh?
The art director is Catherine Peters, who was responsible a lot for the furnishings inside of the room. Gary Fruitkoff was our production designer, and I think he did a wonderful job.
Oh!
Daphne's my friend.
When we were in preparation for the art direction for this film, I pulled about 90 photos from a collection of an homage to the people of color in Los Angeles that was being done at the LA Public Library, the main office, the main branch downtown that was burned down when it was reopened. It was called Shades of LA. And there were about 500 photos that dealt with the African-American presence in Los Angeles from the late 1890s through the 1950s.
And I went on hitting her spot until just
And we
before
used
sunset.
that as a source
I realized later on
to
that Carter had found out as much about what I
get the look that we got.
as I had found out about Daphne Monet. As it turned out, Todd Carter wasn't the only man in Daphne's life. She was also shacking up with some small...
Now, the timing on the color, as you see it, is much brighter than it was in the film. They do that because they were concerned about television sets, you know, where you will actually, I guess, lose some luminance or whatever. But, of course, Tak Fujimoto's idea, which was the richness that we experienced in the film, was much darker.
It was easy money. Too easy.
And we didn't use a lot of filters. Tried to control the colors in the frame more so than to filter it out. Because I wanted to make sure that even though it was a period piece, that there was still immediacy and urgency. And diffusion has a tendency to take that away. I think that filter was called hot chocolate that we used a lot. I might be wrong on that. This neighborhood is in a place called Jefferson Park in Los Angeles. It's actually between La Brea and Crenshaw and Jefferson and Adams. And pretty much remains, still looks the same as it did 40 years ago.
Come on, wash your hands. It's time for supper.
I like shooting through thresholds and watching characters disappear into areas that we cannot follow. I think it enhances the mystery at times. Not necessarily the mystery in terms of the story, but the mystery of film.
You come on out here to Malibu. Meet me at the Fisherman's Pier at the hamburger stand in an hour. Okay?
Malibu, look, Mr. Albright, I don't...
Somehow I think it sparks the imagination a little more. Now, in the book, the trip out to Santa Monica is described in great detail because at that time, Santa Monica was, not built up. There was a lot of orange groves. It was undeveloped, and it was an area strictly off limits to black people. And so the fear element of going out to a place like Santa Monica or Malibu was pretty substantial among black people at that time. This is actually the Malibu Pier. And they kept our sign for a while. I think they've since removed it, but they kept it up for a while, the big archway, which we built for that area. It's actually a bait and tackle shop on the right, not a cafe.
It's pretty out here, huh?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. Where are you from?
Texas.
Do they have an ocean in Texas?
Hey, Barbara.
Gulf. They got a Gulf in Texas.
Barbara, where are you?
I think your friends are looking for you.
I don't care. My sister brought me here because my parents made her. All she wants to do is make out with Herman and smoke cigarettes.
Hey, man. What are you doing out here? Hey, what's going on?
Leave us alone, Herman. We're just talking.
Listen, we don't need you talking to her, okay?
Hey, I said leave us alone. We're just talking about the ocean.
This nigger's trying to pick up on Barbara. That's what's wrong.
Hey, Phil, what's wrong with you? You got a problem?
Now, in this scene, we introduce for the first time yet another fear for our character, whose central premise in a lot of ways is overcoming fear. But this particular fear is fear of what he might become, and it comes from his background in the war.
I want to see your brains.
Run, man, run!
He clearly doesn't want to attack these kids.
I didn't mean it. You sorry enough?
Yes, sir, I am.
You sorry enough?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? And prove it. Come on, prove it. Show 'em.
Get on your knees.
Suck this, Peter. You son of a bitch.
I think he's got the...
The young man who has the gun on him right now is a guy named Kai Lennox, and he's an excellent swing dancer.
Okay. Don't shoot me, please.
Now go on. Go on.
And one of the nicest people you'll meet.
Son of a gun. You're gonna do it, aren't you? Sick bastard.
Oh, get my eyes! Get the hell out of here. I'm calling cops. I'll kill you. Hurry up, man. Come on.
This is one more step down into the subterranean world of corruption and immorality that Easy is finding himself going into. But there's no turning back.
Hang on. Where?
Over to the Schuyler apartment, Schuyler and 83rd.
Schuyler 83rd. Frank Green, what do you know about this guy?
He's a gangster, hijacker, looking cigarette, supposed to be pretty good with a knife.
You ever see him in action?
No, I just heard about him.
It's interesting what Gary Fruitkoff was able to do, that we somehow, those wonderful sets that you'd see in the films in the 30s and 40s, which gave a certain kind of ambiance, we wanted to have some of that. And we knew that we didn't want to shoot on a set because the sets don't breathe. But it's kind of a heightened sense of, I guess, sets that were inspired by that German neo-realism period.
Mr. Rollins, I'm Detective Miller.
Mason,
What?
turn around, put your hand
I'd like you to come with us.
Where?
You'll see.
Well, why you arresting me?
You'll see.
Look, I got a right to know why you arresting me now.
You got a right to fall down, break your face. You got a right to come with me. Come on.
John Roselius, who's taking Denzel out now, is a very good friend of Denzel's, actually, and a former boxer. Now, this was shot in the old LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, which is abandoned now. It's vacant. We actually were able to use the exterior and the interior in the same place.
We can take those cuffs off if you want to cooperate.
Yes, sir, I'm cooperating.
Turn around.
One of our crew members remarked that he had spent time in that jail when he was 16 years of age. He was around 60 years old at the time.
Earlier this morning, about 5 a.m.
What you mean?
He means this morning.
I was out drinking. I carried a friend into his house. And I don't know, I could have been on my way home. I don't know. I ain't looking at no clock.
Oh! Yeah, the clock! You were drinking at 89th and Central, illegal club called John's, weren't you?
What is going on?
Yes, well, answer, Ezekiel. You got a lot bigger troubles than busting
I don't know.
someone in the bar.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What we're talking about is taking your black ass out behind the station.
Detective Miller is played by Bo Starr.
Sit down. Now, what time did you leave Coretta James' house this morning?
Around 5:30, I guess.
You go back later in the day?
No, sir, I did not.
You and Dupree Bouchard, did you have words over Miss James?
Words?
You heard him. Did you two argue over Coretta James?
We didn't argue about...
Did you argue over
No, we didn't
Coretta
argue
James?
about nothing. You was asleep.
Yeah, she went to sleep, too. But she's not going to be waking up, Ezekiel.
What?
Now, where did you go when you left Miss James' house?
Wait. What you talking about? She ain't gonna be waking up.
Where'd you go?
I don't know. I had a hangover.
Oh, you had a hangover?
Yeah, I went home.
Oh,
He had a hangover. That explains everything. He went home. He had a hangover.
Back off! Back off! Back off! Here. No! Get out of here! Let me in! Where's your dog? Get out of here!
We found ourselves using the handheld camera quite a bit because of Scott Sakamoto's ability to shoot with such a steady hand. His camera work is kind of like a hybrid between a Steadicam and a handheld shot. It doesn't float like a Steadicam, which I'm not really that crazy about, but it has just a tiny bit of the heartbeat, just enough to let you know that there's someone, you know, that it's not new technology or whatever.
I had seen dead bodies before. Cold, hard, still as concrete, their eyes wide open, staring up at nothing. But not Coretta. I could still feel her heartbeat.
Hey, Ezekiel Rollins. Hold on, Ezekiel. Somebody in the back would like to talk to you.
Look, I ain't got time right now.
We had two of these limousines. We had one for the exterior shots, and we had another rigged up for the interiors so that we could save time. Because car work is always more time-consuming almost than anything.
Listen, if you wanted to hurt you, it would have happened already. Come on. Get in.
Our chauffeur is also a boxer. Had a lot of fighters on the set. Originally in the book, the character of Matthew Terrell was Matthew Turan, and we changed the name because it sounded Middle Eastern and didn't make a lot of sense that he'd be running for mayor. In the book, he had already lost the mayor's election. He had already been forewarned not to even contest it because of his pedophilia, which is something we will observe later. But we felt that it was important that this particular plot line play itself out in the story rather than being something that had already taken place.
And luckily for you, a friend of the
Which is, again, just part of that translation from literature to cinema, where the conflict is not within characters, but it's between characters.
When I heard that the police had a suspect, I got out of bed immediately, personally, because of my concern. Was there anyone with you, Mr. Rollins?
Maury Chaykin is a Toronto-based actor, Canadian.
A young lady named Daphne Monet, perhaps?
Nobody.
Of course not. I mean, why would you tell someone whom you've only just met? I mean, you can trust me, Mr. Rollins.
There was nobody else there.
I believe you. Can we drop you off at your...
No, I mean...
I decided to go retro with the music with Parlez-moi d'amour because I felt that someone like Matthew Terrell would actually be listening to a station that might have some European imports or whatever. And it added a little bit of dimension to the film. One of the things that I wanted to avoid was making a period piece where all the cars, that takes place in 1948, where everything's from 1948. All the cars are 1948, all the clothing's 1948. In truth, having just come out of a war, it was a humble time. And there had not been construction of automobiles, etc., from 1941 to 1945. So most of what you will see, except for the people who are rich or who are like easy and who just, came back from the war with some money saved up and bought himself a flashy car, We'll be driving cars from the 30s, and the houses go all the way back to the turn of the century, so that there is some depth in what we see. As you know, if you drive down the street now, you know, you'll see cars going all the way back to the 60s and buildings going all the way, you know, back to the 20s and 30s. Very little of what we see is spanking brand new.
Hello? Is this Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Daphne Monet.
Jennifer Beals, who plays Daphne Monet, lowered her voice for the role. Made a trip to Shreveport, Louisiana, so that she could research Daphne Monet's hometown, and felt that since she was a little reminiscent of Linda Darnell and Veronica Lake, that she might serve the character better to lower her voice a little. That was her own choice. Denzel and Don Cheadle went to the Houston in the Fifth Ward to research their characters, because that's the point of origin for them. The woman who just walked past in the black is Carol Kravitz, the editor. And Gary Fruitkoff was the gentleman, production designer. And a friend of mine, the bellhop, is Dr. Ricky Hendricks, who kept checking his beeper because he's an obstetrician who delivers babies. And a woman was in labor.
Hello, Mr. Rollins.
This was shot at the old Ambassador Hotel on Wilshire, and it's empty now. And we took one of the suites, and which was vacant and kind of disheveled, and we dressed it.
You know, I had to pay Coretta not to tell you where I was.
Oh, she got you too.
One of the things that we tried to do, even with our cooler colors, like the blue that Daphne Monet is wearing, we wanted to mute that so the primary colors wouldn't stick out, wouldn't stand out. We desaturated all of our colors to try to control the palette, so there was a worn texture to the movie, mainly with earth tones of browns and greens and golds, orange.
Please, straight up. So how well did you know Coretta?
She was a very close friend.
So maybe you know why she got killed?
Why would I know that?
Said she was a very close friend. She knew about you and Frank. Maybe somebody wanted to keep that secret.
That's Bull Moose Jackson singing.
Easy if you're thinking that Frank had anything to do with Coretta's death, and obviously you don't know very much about him. Frank doesn't go around beating people up. He prefers to use...
Jennifer Beals approached me to play Daphne Monet, called me on the phone, and I was concerned about her playing the role, not because I did not trust her acting ability, but because I knew that she was part African American, and I was concerned that it would tip off the secret that we were holding in the film. And I know her husband, Alexander Rockwell, or her former husband, he's a director as well. And I felt, I got to talk to her. I got to do this for Alex. And so I met with her, and she came in, and she knocked the part out. Just was incredible. She was head and shoulders above everybody else. And I still fought it in my head. I was still concerned about that, but it came down to the fact that she just simply won the role. She was just the best there was.
Easy. The real reason I called you is because I'd like you to drive me to Todd's house.
Beg your pardon?
Well, you found me, and now I want you to take me to Todd Carter's.
Why didn't you call Todd Carter? Have him send for you.
Well, I have to go someplace else on the way. Someplace that I don't want Todd to know about. There's a man named Richard McGee, and he lives up in Laurel Canyon. And he delivered a letter of mine to the wrong place, and now I need to make arrangements to get it back.
At 4 o'clock in the morning. Must be a pretty important letter.
Originally, there was a romantic connection between Easy and Daphne, and it actually even started to play in this scene in the book, as we will remember. But because we had shifted the focus of the film, we had shifted the focus of the film from an objective perspective to a subjective perspective, telling it through the eyes of our character, Easy Rollins, it was important for us to keep it subjective so that we discover the mystery through his eyes. And also, because in the book she had already made the determination to leave Carter, we decided that it was important that she have a problem that she's working out throughout the film. And that meant, and what that problem, what she was trying to do was to get some information that would allow her boyfriend, Todd Carter, to be able to go into the mayor's race. He had dropped out of the mayor's race because of blackmail against her. And if we had had a romantic connection between the two, then it would have invalidated that relationship and would have totally destroyed her character.
Are you nervous?
Nervous? Here I was in the middle of the night in a white neighborhood with a white woman in my car. No, I wasn't nervous.
This is on Mulholland Drive, where we shot this.
Getting Daphne back to Todd.
And this is in Laurel Canyon.
Seemed so easy. Who was this guy, Richard McGee?
Just parked behind that car.
The Life of Riley is playing on the radio, and probably it would not be on at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we decided to take some dramatic license and add that ambiance because we felt that it still enriched the period. And, you know, whether people literally picked up on the fact that a radio show might not be playing at 4 a.m., we felt that it was worth taking some dramatic license. Now, if you'll notice, Jennifer's hairstyle is different here because we had a different hairstylist. This was her original hairstyle, and we weren't satisfied with that, and then we changed it. And so this is really the only scene that you will see her appearing with this particular style of hair.
Oh my God!
A lot of people have likened the look of our film and the subject matter, etc., to Chinatown, and we never thought Chinatown. We thought Howard Hawks' Big Sleep, more so as a prototype. It's a 1933 Cadillac, I believe it is, and the gentleman who owned it was very, very protective of that car. I couldn't even sit on it.
Hey, who's that at the door?
It's him.
Oh, yeah?
You fought in Europe?
Easy.
What you doing in my house, man?
The heavy playing just opposite Denzel here is Nicky Corello, who's a good friend of mine.
What y'all doing in my house? Y'all ain't got no right to break in
Nicky's from New York.
Where you been this time of morning, Easy?
Hey, I went to see a girl. Why? You don't get none all bright?
I didn't come here to play nigger.
One of the things we wanted to do with this scene is by having it in the house, by violating the house, was to have, you know, this in the middle of the quiet, serene surroundings of a peaceful neighborhood, to have violence happening right in the heart of it and with nobody knowing anything about it. We're going to underscore that in a moment when you'll see a milk truck pull up in the background and the deliveryman will go in and go about his route and not unaware that someone is under threat right across the street from them. The hope was that it would create mystery in our own minds from when we travel through peaceful neighborhoods.
There was a dead man up there. While I was looking at it, she took off.
Come on in. Sit down.
Something about the stark sunlight that makes it more dangerous to me.
What you do, take his car?
Huh?
McGee.
Yeah.
If you can write down where you picked her up at. Write it down.
There's a milkman now.
Bologna gets stuck in my...
Nobody likes to play these demeaning kinds of scenes where you're being shoved around, and Denzel was having a hard time with this one, I can tell you. Just as Tom Sizemore was having a difficult time saying the N-word.
You get it your damn self.
He's got balls, you gotta give him that.
Shoot him. I'm just kidding.
Oh. You're a brave man. I need a brave man working for me. You're doing a nice job, too, but... Give me a whiskey, man. Gotta find Frank Green so he can lead us to her.
No, thank you.
Now, this particular scene, for some reason, we had no ambiance at all. We had to create all of this in sound effects. This is all Foley. This is all effects for this scene in the kitchen. Everything. Footsteps, the sound of the air, everything.
You find him. I will be checking in. That's some cheap shit. Let's go. Come on.
Since Albright likes surprise parties, I had a friend of my own I wanted to invite. I placed a call to Etta Mae Alexander in Houston. Told her to get a message to her husband, Miles.
Now, this scene was shot on the same day that we shot the opening scene on. It's actually the same street, except that we are taking a different angle now, and we've moved maybe up about half a block. We did 3 scenes that day, and as I say, cut them in and out of the film in 3 different places, and I think it opens up the movie, makes it much larger, creates the illusion of a much bigger film. Catterley Frauenfelder and Mark Catone were responsible for choreographing a lot of the background action. That's my friend Mel Winkler, who plays Joppy. I first worked with him on a HBO project called Laurel Avenue, and he was, besides Denzel, was the one actor whom I hired without interviewing. I just, when I was writing the script, felt he was Joppy.
I was looking for the girl. And Coretta was too busy scamming Daphne, so it couldn't have been her. No, it was you, Joppy.
Maybe she looked it in the phone book.
I ain't in the phone book. Now, you supposed to be my friend. Now, why in the hell didn't you tell a man where the girl was your damn self?
In the first place, what the hell you mean coming up here looking all ugly like you think you gonna do something?
I think I'm gonna do something.
That actually is not a marble top. I can't remember exactly what the material was that we used, but we were concerned about being able to, because we had to, after for different takes, we had to go in and change the top.
And I figured I could help you make a few dollars and throw all
And so we didn't use real marble.
She wanted to know something about you, so I told her. And I guess I'll give her your phone number.
Where's she at, Joppy?
I don't know.
Don't lie to me.
I'm not lying to you.
Where's she running from then?
She didn't tell me. Easy. Look at me.
In the book, if you'll remember, Joppy had known Easy back in Houston, known him as a child. And we tried to, in a condensed and succinct way, to convey that relationship in this scene, even though we didn't have an opportunity or the time to give much backstory between them.
What?
We're coming up on the Carter Foundation, which was actually in Pasadena.
Like Albright said,
It's a Catholic school, as I believe.
you better be mixed up to the top. So that's where I was going. All the way to the top. Everybody was peeing on my head and telling me it was rain. Guess they figured I was some new kind of fool, and maybe I was. Because I was ready to start fighting back. And I believed somehow that I could live through this bad dream I was having about pretty girls and...
Now, for the first time, we see Easy starting to become a detective, wearing the suit, wearing the fedora. The transformation is, I wouldn't say complete, but he is definitely in the middle now of his ascension. Originally, Denzel was interested in doing White Butterfly. That was the book that had piqued his interest. And I felt The Devil in the Blue Dress was so much more rich, so much more interesting because it traversed so many different areas of the Los Angeles community. That was Jessie Beaton's mom and her aunt who just walked by, who's our producer and my business partner. Her father will walk down the stairs past Denzel in a moment. But I thought it was important to see the genesis of this detectives. We were all in anticipation of making many of these books. So why not start with the first? The actor playing Carter is Terry Kinney, a fine New York actor.
Mr. Carter will see you.
Mr. Rollins.
Mr. Carter?
You've heard from
In the book, he was much more of a Howard Hughes kind of character, and we decided to bring him down into the mix a little bit more so that he had something to lose, and he was part of the plot that had to be worked out. In the book, he was a removed guy who just made decisions about things that would happen in town. We decided to make him a candidate.
I'm sorry. Would you like to come in?
Mr. Carter.
Have a seat.
Thank you. I just want some answers.
Would you like a brandy?
Thank you. I want to know what I got myself into.
Beg pardon?
Well, I want to know the real reason Mr. Albright hired me.
Mr. Albright.
Yeah.
We also flipped the story a little bit. In the book, Albright had hired Easy, and he indeed was working for Albright. Carter had hired Albright. But we changed that and added another twist. In fact, Albright was working for Matthew Terrell
Until just now, I thought she was hundreds of miles away from here.
against Todd Carter.
Say someone's looking for her.
Yeah.
Someone's looking for her.
Look, Mr. Carter, it's nothing personal, but what's going on between y'all?
Nothing. We were going to get married.
With the disheveled look of the collar open and the tie kind of open, we were trying to communicate that he was not getting a lot of sleep since his girlfriend had left.
He says I'm
even though he was carrying on some semblance of still being under control.
Look,
And we decided to make him very relaxed in his environment instead of putting him in a suit or something that looked official in a cardigan sweater.
For her sake.
Someone who rules very casually
Why'd she leave
from
in
the
first
shadows.
place?
It's really none of your concern, Mr. Rollins, but I am willing to pay you to find her.
And this is yet another scene that deals with the journey, the odyssey that Easy Rollins finds himself going through.
$1,000.
In behind the cogs and the pulleys where the real American dream exists, not on the superficial level. And whereas he was struggling to make his mortgage before, now everybody's throwing money at him.
They eat at my house regularly, and my father's house.
That's good, Mr. Carter, and they can help us find her.
No, they can't.
But this was a turning point when he decided to fight back.
I'll have Baxter write you out a check.
Mr. Carter, why you stop running for mayor?
I'll have Baxter write you a check.
All right, why is Matthew Terrell looking for Daphne, too?
Baxter will write you a check.
I'll take cash.
A tiny detail you will notice, Terry instinctively does this. Easy will put the glass down on the wood, and Terry will put it back on the blotter so as not to ruin his $6,000 table.
So Albright had lied to me. Instead of working for Carter, he was working for Matthew Terrell.
We rewrote this voiceover probably about 30 times because we wanted to keep the voiceovers at a minimum. And yet at the same time, they were necessary for expository information and to get you deeper inside of the characters.
Down on Central Avenue. So I decided to kick up some dust right in Frank's backyard.
We're coming up on a location that is actually I think it's Club Fado Do, which is a Latin club. That's Jessie Beaton. She plays Ramona in this, and she's always wearing leopard. She's my partner and my producer, and in all of my films, One False Move, Devil in a Blue Dress, Laurel Avenue, and One True Thing, she's always Ramona and always in leopard. She always makes an appearance.
You know me, though, don't you?
This is shot down on Sunset, east of Silver Lake Boulevard, a pool hall.
Well, give me some. I ain't talking. All right, well, give me a bid. Can I get a bid? Can I get a bid?
And again, we searched a long time for the faces that we thought would convey the 40s. I cast the extras personally because I wanted to make sure that there was that certain look. Certain faces look a lot more like 1940 than others. And I even found some members of the crew. The gentleman who's buying booze there was an electrician. The gentleman who was a maitre d' before was also a grip in the scene before. And a good actor, Smokey Campbell. Now we come back to the woodcutter. Again, in the book, Easy, at the point when he started to get immersed in that subterranean world of corruption, etc., he lost contact with his home, and we needed something to show that same kind of separation. And so we used a character that wouldn't slow us down for shots because it all pays off in the end. Now, this fight, I wanted to make sure it was ragged. I wanted you to see the real danger of a real fight so that it was not clean. He was not the superhero. He was somebody who was in real serious trouble.
Frank, wait a minute. I got $500 for you, Frank. Listen, a rich white man wants to find it.
One of the little things that we added there was that chain spilling on the floor, just to take you inside of the fight. We did that in post-production. But it enhances the visceral, emotional response to this.
Hey. You want me to shoot this son of a bitch easy?
Miles!
Huh? You want me shooting?
Oh.
And Denzel actually, at one point, did ask me why he couldn't win that fight. Because he felt he could take this guy in real life.
God damn it, I'm gonna blow your nose
No,
off.
wait, no, don't shoot him.
Where's Daphne Monet, Frank? All right, look, all right, maybe you don't know where she is, but hey, we can help each other find her, man.
You heard, yo.
Mouse, no!
If you notice again in production design, this is a man's home, very little furnishing. This was something that we decided upon. We knew we would be in the house a lot, and the temptation, of course, was to over-decorate it. But we realized that a bachelor, you generally are not that into decorating. He would spend most of his time in the yard, making the yard look nice. And he wouldn't have a lot of money either. He was someone who was primarily concerned with picking up girls and having a good time, 28 years old.
Look here, Frank. It's Frank, right? Yeah. Frank?
Now, this is something I came up with because I thought that this would be the most serious way to introduce this character and to show you what he's capable of. You know, that he did show some mercy. He did put away the big gun for the little gun, but basically he is all business, and this is going to start the interrogation.
It's a damn expensive coat.
There was one take, I really wished I could have used it. There were other problems with it, but he said, "Easy, why are you grabbing me? He's getting ready to talk. He's getting ready to say something."
Now we got to go find that girl so we can get that money, huh?
Hell no, we don't have to go find nobody. I done changed my mind. I don't need your kind of help, Mouse.
Boy, look at you. Man, cut a damn smile in your neck. You gonna tell me you don't need my kind of help?
See, this the same shit you pulled 5 years ago when you killed old man Nevershett and them.
Again, Sharon Davis's wardrobe. This is Don Cheadle playing Mouse, and I'd worked with Don in my student film, Punk. It's when I first met him. At any rate, I want to digress for a second on the wardrobe. Mouse was described in the book as being a fairly natty dresser, not really flashy, but someone who knew fashion. And so Mouse is dressed quite tastefully for the time. But at any rate, I had been getting a lot of pressure from the studio to cast a name in the role of Mouse. You know, Damon Wayans' name kept coming up. Spike Lee's name was being forced down me. Everybody from Samuel L. Jackson to Delroy Lindo came in to read for Mouse. And I did not feel that Don was the guy for the role, even though I felt that he had the ability, because I wasn't sure that he and Denzel could look the same age, because Don was much younger. And at the time, Denzel, had been on vacation, had gained some weight, and wasn't really, looking as young as he was looking right there. And so at any rate, I was concerned about that, and I sat next to Don inside of a doctor's office for about an hour while we were waiting to be seen. I still didn't get the thing, and then finally he called me and was not connected with this, and I just thought, God, I gotta let my boy come in and read for it. And he came in and he knocked it out, and I still was a little nervous about it because I didn't know if they could be contemporaries. And Denzel said, "Hey man, I'm gonna be young. You just don't know." And here he is, true to his word. So I bit the bullet and cast Don Cheadle.
We're looking at a double here. All we gotta do is place you in a dead man's house.
I wasn't in no dead man's house.
Yeah, well, you know what we could do? We could go down the station. We'll send a team over here.
Believe me, they'll find something that will place you at that dead man's house.
Evidence has a funny way of showing up, you know?
Nah, y'all ain't got nothing on me.
This is another major difference in the this particular kind of film noir gumshoe detective. Philip Marlowe exists in a vacuum in terms of who lives next door to him, where did he come from, et cetera, and Easy is in a definite social context. We see his neighbors, we see where he lives, we know where he's been. In a lot of ways, again, it's turning the genre on its head, that he, again, is the innocent, whereas in the Marlowe stories, Marlowe is cynical and everybody else is the innocent. Everyone who's not hip to the game.
It was all a game to them. But in the morning, they'd be playing for keeps because of white man.
This was as much social realism as it was film noir. We realized that and decided to shoot it with that in mind, as opposed to trying to operate from a genre. I said earlier that we had thought The Big Sleep. Actually, we didn't think that until we saw the film afterwards, that it reminded us of The Big Sleep. We decided to take it from scratch and to build it brick by brick as we went, from photos and from discussions with Tak and myself and Gary Fruitcock.
Seeing all them people that's been giving you trouble.
Just leave my trees alone, all right?
Man, I'm gonna go back and knock down a couple of them for you. I'm not gonna cut down.
Again, he's trying to save his life. He's trying to get himself out of a serious situation, and he's got this problem to deal with as well, which just roots him more into the neighborhood. This is Scott Sakamoto on a crane, and he's got a Steadicam. He's looking down on top of the car. He will step off of the crane and follow them in with a Steadicam. A very athletic operator. And these are these unique courtyard apartments that I don't know where else in the country you find them, but they seem to spell L.A.
Easy.
What you want?
Let me in, Junior. It's private.
I ain't got no time to be fooling with you now. I'm trying to get some sleep.
Hey, you better go and open this door, Junior. Act like you got some sense.
Oh.
Go on, fool. Get out the way. We ain't got all day.
I was having so much fun with this scene, I was actually a problem on the set because I kept laughing at different times, and you know, I think laughed on one of the takes or something. I couldn't help myself.
This one's yours too, isn't it? So why you kill Richard McGee?
Huh? What you talking about?
Ain't no time to play, Junior. I know you want to kill him.
You crazy, man.
Sit down, Junior.
Tell me what happened, Junior.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the police will when they find out the fingerprints they got up in that man's house belong to you.
What fingerprints? What house?
Hattie had you to pull that man out of John's bar the night I was
David Fontenot's out of New York. Stage actor, we cast him in New York. About half, I'd say about 40% of the cast was found in New York. Interestingly enough, we only spent a week back there casting and cast probably about between 35 and 40% of our leads from New York. A testament to the talent that's there.
And you better tell me what happened, Junior. Maybe I'll forget what I know. Otherwise, I'm gonna tell Mouse to shoot you. Because, you know, I don't like your monkey ass, and he don't like you either. Now, you killed that man. You took his money, didn't you?
I don't even know who you talking about.
Didn't you? You just had to rob him, didn't you?
I didn't. I didn't touch nothing in that man's house.
God damn, Junior.
Sit down.
Mouse was someone whom, when Walter Mosley and I talked about this book, we both had recollections of people like that. Guys who, you know, there was always someone who was related to someone who was a Mouse-type character, and you would see that guy once in a while at your dinner table, and it was a frightening thing, but it was also exotic and interesting. And whereas at the time the other relatives would give you a nickel, a Mouse would give you a quarter.
No, to deliver a letter. I give it to Coretta to give to her the next morning.
Yeah, well, you better be telling the truth, Junior. Junior, come on, let's go, man.
I'm telling the truth. I ain't killed nobody.
All right, Junior.
That man was alive when I left him. I ain't killed nobody.
The letter that was so important to Daphne had worked its way over to the other side of town, to Dupree's sister's house in Compton. I hoped.
Interesting. This was the original song that I was playing, but we actually went for a score here. Instead, this is, I believe this is Muddy Waters. No, it's not Muddy Waters, it's Howlin'. It's either Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf, but we did not use this in the film. That particular piece of music.
Yeah, the cops just let me out today. Sister going to work, and I ain't feel much like talking.
Compton, which we hear so much about from NWA, et cetera, and all the rappers, was a country town at that time and still bears a lot of the trappings of the country, because that is where a lot of the people who came out of Texas and Louisiana went to, straight to Compton. A lot of the streets were not paved. You notice horses on the street, et cetera. And there are places in Compton even today where you see cows and chickens in the yard.
Why somebody want to kill
Very much a rural kind of environment. This was actually in Piru where we shot it.
Same thing to you about the letter she was keeping.
Letter? What kind of letter?
From that white girl?
No.
Now, the song that you'll hear on the radio is the only song that does not, that is anachronistic, that is a more modern song. That's the Reverend James Cleveland, and it was recorded in the 60s. But because it was a spiritual song and played so low as a source cue, we decided we would put it in the film. I thought that it worked well as a religious song.
She probably introduced Coretta to one of them guys she knew. He probably came over to the house, saw that Coretta wasn't that type.
And these are not pigtails, actually. This is chicken because Don doesn't eat pork or beef.
You imagine it? My baby fought him. Fought him because she wouldn't have nobody but me.
Now, this was changed dialogue. This was because we had to condense the Dupree character in those scenes down to a kind of something very concentrated. I changed the dialogue so that we could get the sense of this man who had been played on by his girlfriend, though they had a lot more time to do it in the book. We had to do it with a couple of lines. And we ran the risk of being too obvious, but I thought the actors played it quite well.
Don't even let me go near the house. That's the only thing I got left that belonged to her.
The Bible.
I know it was a sign because she's so religious.
And Jannard Burks, who's playing Dupree, every time he did this scene, in auditions, in rehearsals, in every take, the tears, his own, every time.
All right. Oh, that's that. All right.
Now, this, again, was not in the book. The whole idea of there being pictures of Matthew Terrell. This was something that I added in the screenplay. And this, of course, has been what they've been looking for all the way through, the letter that Daphne Monet had gone up to Richard McGee's house to find. And we were able to, at the same time that we were able to make a social comment on the hypocrisy of some of these people and their religion. We'll do it again toward the end of the film.
Much younger Matthew Terrell and children. Innocent, helpless, naked children.
I got it. Come on, let's go. You crazy?
Now, I was under a lot of pressure to get rid of this scene, not to use this scene. They felt that this scene didn't add anything to the movie, that it wasn't moving the story forward. My feeling was that it was a centerpiece of who Mouse was in a lot of ways. That he was this in a lot of ways took the responsibility, because I was concerned about a character like Mouse being too attractive, and I wanted to make sure that we could see just how dangerous he could be, even though it's comedic. We wanted to make sure you realize that this man is out of control.
Let him go.
And this spells their relationship. This has been their relationship all their life. Easy finding a way to somehow be friends with a rattlesnake.
If he ain't out, you better tell him. I will. Trust me. I'll tell him. Right there. No, keep an eye on him. Where you going? That's right.
That's Don Cheadle. Where you going? That's an ad-lib line.
The pictures was eating at my pocket like a cigarette burn. Albright had killed for those pictures to get them back for Matthew Terrell. He had killed Richard McGee, who had sold the pictures to Daphne. Time was running out. But I had some unfinished business with the girl. She had called that afternoon, and all I needed was for her to call again.
This was a fusion of the book and the screenplay, actually. In the book, Daphne Monet does appear in Easy's house, but he's not waiting for a phone call from her.
I'm sorry I broke into your house, and please don't be angry with me.
Elmer Bernstein's music at this point has a kind of you'll hear an almost Eastern European kind of a sound with a swirling kind of a feeling, which in a lot of ways symbolizes for us the kind of serpentine character of Daphne Monet.
His boyfriend Dupree got out of jail today.
And you need me to help you find him. I already got the pictures, Daphne.
This was one of our more difficult nights, as I remember. We didn't have many nights where we shot overtime, and I don't think that this went particularly long. But I remember that it was difficult. Just being cramped in that space all that time. We'd been in the house probably for about a month at this point, shooting.
Matthew Terrell might have something to say about that.
All right, then I'll pay you for them. I'll give you $1,000.
You gave Richard McGee $7.
Then I'll give you $7.
Damn, what does Terrell have on you, girl?
Nothing. You want the money or not?
No. No, I got 2 murders hanging over my head. Unless I give the cops a killer by tomorrow morning, I'm going to jail. Now, who killed Coretta?
I don't know.
It was because of them pictures she was killed, or wasn't it?
I don't know.
Your boyfriend, Frank Green, killed her to bring you them pictures, didn't he?
Now, this is the obligatory film noir scene where the whole plot is explained. It's something that we felt we could get away with because we were in many ways trying to recapture the genre.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, sure he did. I knew there was more between y'all.
We set out not to make a derivative of a 1940s film noir. We decided to try to do the thing itself, except we knew we would have to do it in color.
Frank is my brother.
What?
Our mother is Creole. We have different fathers. Mine is white. And that's what Terrell has on me. And so far, I've been able to keep Frank out of this.
Who killed Coretta?
It was an accident.
Who killed her?
She threatened to sell the pictures to Terrell.
This was the scene that we used to audition the actors for Daphne Monet. This scene and the scene inside of the hotel room were the 2 scenes that we used.
I didn't mean to hurt anybody. But Todd and his
Because they offer the most emotional range
because of me, they really wanted
and the most shifts and turns in the character.
the election that we...
Be a son of a bitch. Get her, Sharif.
Now, when we shot this, I had a big debate inside of my head as to whether or not I wanted to do a lot of quick cuts on the fight between Easy and between the other henchmen, and I felt that it would be much more ominous if we were following the action of Daphne and DeWitt Albright, and then come back only for the last blow on Easy Rollins. And there was, of course, a big debate as to whether or not his face would swell up immediately or whether it would take some minutes before the big lump appears on his jaw. Surprisingly enough, Denzel likes these kinds of scenes better than anything, probably. He's very physical. Very physical. Very adept at stunt work. Fight scenes, especially.
Because it had come to me in less time than it takes.
Now, this scene coming up where they come down the street, this probably reminds me more of a 1940s movie than anything else in the movie. We had a big debate about how to shoot this. I basically did prevail. Tock and I were talking about what to do, and it was a little bit dicey because we had to have Tock run across the street with the camera, and I didn't want a steady cam. I wanted there to be that urgency and for there to be some traffic going. So it was a really athletic thing that he had to do, and at the same time hit his marks and then hold the characters in the frame. This is straight out of a James Cagney movie. Or at least that effect. Again, we tried to keep depth where you can see the cars in the background. That's actual, those are real cars. I thought that was very important, and it provided a big challenge for Tock because he had to balance the light from interior and exterior, especially during the day, but I wanted to be able to see that world outside and all those real cars passing by to give it depth, to make sure that these people existed in a broader context in a world that was surrounding them. Down the street, if you'll notice on the theater, we passed it already, but it was a Regency Theater, and one of Oscar Michaud's films was playing called Betrayal. It's a kind of a subliminal effect to symbolize Joppy's character and what he represents to Easy.
I don't get it right. There's a cabin now.
Another sub-theme in the film.
There's a cabin. Where is it? It's in Malibu on Route 9.
Make a right turn to the alley.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you sure this is where Albright's gonna be, right?
I guess
Don't
so.
be guessing, Joppy.
Look, he done this kind of thing out there before, so I guess so.
Hey, Easy. Man, what's done got into you? I thought y'all supposed to be friends.
He killed Dupree's girlfriend, Coretta.
You lying?
Nah.
I ain't done nothing like that.
Now, this was a scene that I had also added. This was not in the book. And this, again, was just simply, you know, an economical way while we're on the way out to Santa Monica, to Malibu, to underscore the unpredictability of the character of Mouse.
$7,000 for them pictures.
Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
This music cue that you hear was not written for this place, but I wasn't crazy about the cue that had been written for it, and I listened to this and I thought, you know, there's something that counterpoints well with this. It's so ominous because it's beautiful, peaceful music. It's not, and that makes it more ominous somehow because it doesn't hit on the head and doesn't try to anticipate the action. It's much more foreboding, I felt. This is out at Disney Ranch, which was freezing. And Denzel is going to be in a t-shirt in a while.
Man, come on. The girl is lying that she told you I killed her.
These were some of the longest nights that we worked on the film.
Easy, I'm just gonna go on and shoot him now, okay?
No, don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
The cabin that Easy finds himself coming upon, we built this cabin out at Disney Ranch. And we built it to our specifications specifically for this gun battle. So that we could silhouette our characters easily off of it, so that we could also stage our action, our fight scene, choreograph it in the way that we wanted to, so the angles lined up for Mouse to come in the back when he does come with his gun to save the day. Again, I opted to shoot this without looking inside and being with the characters when the torment was going on inside. I thought it was much more ominous rather than actually seeing what was happening. But one woman, 3 guys, the imagination can run wild with what could happen.
Yeah, you liar. I know you're lying. Lying about being a nigger? Huh? So tell me the truth. What part of you is nigger?
And again, we're only going to suggest the action once again when he takes the hot poker from the fireplace. One can just imagine what he intends to do.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get you out of here.
I wanted to keep the action raw. I wanted the violence to come from the emotion, from the invasion of humanity more so than from any slick and choreographed fight of a gun battle. I wanted the fear to be evident. And I had seen something like this, where the character with a bullet in his neck actually walks some distance before he collapses. I had seen a man shot 6 times in the head down on La Brea and 21st Street, and watched him get a small caliber pistol and watched him get up and walk away, only to find that he was down in a driveway 2 blocks away later. But it's those strange occurrences that I find myself gravitating toward. Now you're going to hear the breathing sound of someone who, where the air is escaping through the lungs. This is actually Kai Lennox, who came in to do his dubbing, but had a horrible cold, and gave us a great sucking air wound from the chest. If you'll notice the sounds, you'll hear all the sounds going out, the crickets, birds, etc. And only after he's passed do you hear them start to come to life again. I used the same device in One False Move at the point when the killers were all killed, when everyone was dead, and it's basically that nature stops to observe the passing of one of its own. Even a bad guy, basically, we stop to give the respect to the passage of life, so as not to take it so lightly.
Can you walk?
Especially given what we're about to do a couple minutes from now, where we really tread the line between, I guess you could say, comedy and drama.
Where'd Joppy, Mouse?
Huh?
Where'd Joppy?
He right there.
The truth is that I actually felt I was a little concerned about the message of this scene, but it was irresistible. When I wrote this line, I just had to use it.
That's right. Well, I did, and I choked him.
What?
Well, how am I gonna help you out if I'm back here fooling around with him now? Easy, look, if you ain't want him killed, why'd you leave him with me?
This was the line that I had some trepidation about. I wonder if it's becoming too humorous. But then again, Mouse was there to serve as the alter ego of Easy. He was not our lead character. He was not our statement of the film. And he represented the fear. He represented the person that Easy could become, but had somehow managed, even through all of this, to avoid.
All right, sweetheart. Listen, you think you're gonna have trouble with that dude, Frank? I can just run by, kill him, and take that evening train to Houston.
Nah, Mouse.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, look here. Now, I'll cut you in for half, because I know you was too big a fool to take your share from that white girl yourself. All right. Hey, man, look. If you need somebody to run them streets with you again, just give me a call, because you know how to put some money in a nigga's pocket.
Mouse is a character that has become so cynical that he is almost pure in his guilelessness, he's so unaware of who he is morally, so comfortable with his place in immorality. And it astounds Easy.
Was that I didn't tell her. And then Terrell threatened to go public about my mother.
Now, this was shot actually up at the Ambassador Hotel. We rocked the car. We decided to create the background. I never do that, but I felt in this film we could get away with it because they had always done it in all the old film noirs. And in fact, Coppola does it in Godfather 1 when they come from the meeting with all of the mafia heads.
Daphne had gotten the money out of a locker at the YWCA.
In some ways, we decided to use the observatory because besides the fact that it was a remarkable, besides the fact that it was an incredible set, it evokes Oz somehow. It evokes the coming to the end, coming to that destination point where the man that controls all the buttons operates from.
And even a rich white man like Todd Carter was afraid to cross it.
Walk away. Don't. Wait.
We had to wait 3 hours to shoot this scene because there was a reggae concert going on down in the Greek Theater that night.
Here's the $800 that I owe you. And thank you for protecting her. You have some pictures.
The primary theme in this film had to do with a man overcoming fear. A man coming into his own, someone who believed in the American dream as he understood it, working an 8-to-5 job, losing that job for some reason that is unfair, and then through desperation making a pact with a member of an underworld, and then somehow successfully navigating through those subterranean waters and coming out on the other end with the understanding of being a stronger capitalist. I won't work an 8-to-5 anymore. I'm going in business for myself.
Mr. Rollins.
That, to me, was the main theme of the film.
I do love her.
The premise that we used was courage leads to freedom. The shot we're about to see on Jennifer Beals, where we see the receding Todd Carter character in the background, where we rack focus in front here, just a hint of sadness will work its way through a stoic face just at the end. She saves it, just a bit. Very subtle performance.
You want me to walk inside?
This house was actually only 2 blocks away from Easy's house in terms of where we were, where they were located in reality. This was part of Jefferson Park as well. In the book, it actually is someplace, I believe, in Watts.
I dropped her off at her brother's apartment, a 4-plex on Denker Street. She had told me her story on the way home like a sinner who wanted to confess. Her name was Ruby Hanks from Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I suppose all she really wanted was a place to fit in. A few days later, my conscience got the best of me, and I went by her place to bring back my half of her money. I was kind of excited about seeing her again. But when I got there, she and her brother had picked up and gone.
If you'll notice, Shoo-In is misspelled. It should be SHOO-IN. But our prop master made a mistake, and there we were, and I needed a newspaper, and people usually give you the benefit of the doubt and think there's some hidden meaning behind the misspelling of the word. But I'd be lying to you if I said that there was.
Find a job yet?
I ain't studying no job, Odell.
Instead of no job, how you gonna live?
I got a little money saved up. I'm gonna invest in some real
One of the things that we decided to use in that final scene where you see the police officers drive by comes from in his own neighborhood where they know that he's connected to those killings, comes from an experience, some experiences that take me back to when I was a kid, where my older brother, who used to hang out with some of the unseemly kinds of characters, would point out murderers to me who walked down the street who hadn't been caught for crimes that they'd committed. And it was a commonplace thing in the black community at that time, that black-on-black crimes were not prosecuted. And so this is how easy, after having been ID'd, having been seen by people in Joppy's bar, can exist in the neighborhood. And if you know anything about the books, you realize that as the books progress, it easy becomes even less and less of a welcome presence in that community. And we were looking forward to seeing that deterioration with the subsequent films that we hope to make. And here's where the woodcutter pays off for us. He has served as someone who has reminded us of the neighborhood. Now he is a rallying point for all the neighbors who he has created mischief for. He's someone who everybody kind of a pest, but if anything ever happened to that man, everybody would be upset. And it gives us the opportunity to gather the people together and to see what it is that this man has won by coming out the other end, scoping the neighborhood. And it also is a kind of a bittersweet, nostalgic view back at what South Central looked like back in the 40s and the early 50s, and even on into the 60s before the gangs would take it over and it would lose its innocence.
I thought about what Odell had said about friends, and it made sense to me. Odell goes to church every Sunday, so he would know. Later on, he challenged me to a game of dominoes. Now, what'd he go and do that for?
You're gonna see a little boy run down the street with a rifle in his hand. That's Denzel's little boy. That's John David on the right, crossing the street, now going to the left.
And I sat with my friend on my porch at my house, and we laughed a long time.
Tom Sizemore, who played DeWitt Albright, of course, has just appeared in Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. And as I say, he gained about 20 pounds for this role. Renee Humphrey starred in another film, as an independent film that she did. Smokey Campbell, you might have seen in Baghdad Cafe a couple of years earlier. Catterley Frauenfelder and Mark Catone were two. Mark Catone is now a first AD, but Catterley Frauenfelder and Mark Catone are pretty much universally recognized as the best in the business. Scott Sakamoto, one of the best operators you're going to find, very athletic. Tony Brubaker, a friend of mine from the old days, cowboy, stuntman, was our stunt coordinator. Doug Schamberger was someone we picked up in our repertory of people who worked along with Dwayne and Ken Siegel in sound. Moonstar Green, part of our editing staff, Carol Kravitz, who edits all my films. We've known each other all the way back since the AFI, where we were directing fellows together there. This was our third film together. We've gone on to do one more since then. Eric Oliver, I worked with his brother Jono Oliver in One True Thing in the second capacity as well, second AD. And that's Ronald Dellums, who's the son of the Senator Ronald Dellums, who worked with us as a PA on the set. We had a soundtrack that came out with all of these great 1940s tunes on it. This is Chickaboo that you're listening to right now. West Side Baby, of course, was T-Bone Walker. Ain't Nobody's Business, you'll remember Jimmy Witherspoon. And of course, a couple by Duke Ellington. Hop, Skip, and Jump and Good Rockin' Tonight were both huge hits, rock and roll kinds of hits back in 1948. And Blues After Hours was kind of a funky little, almost R&B kind of a song as well. Parlez-moi d'amour was from maybe about 20 years earlier, originally I believe recorded by Edith Piaf. Certainly was recorded by her. I'm not sure if it was originally recorded by her. And Round Midnight, we know Thelonious Monk, very famous piece. I guess that was Lloyd Glenn who did Chickaboo. All in all, it was a great experience going into the world that Walter Mosley created of Central Avenue in 1948 Los Angeles. I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to realize this project. It was something that we first began to track in 1990, came to fruition in 1994, and I hope you've enjoyed the fruits of our labor here. I'm Carl Franklin, talking about our film, Devil in a Blue Dress.